Greetings and salutations. My name's Johnny Nato, and you're at another episode of Embrace Your Storm. Thank you all for joining us. As always, we've got another exciting episode. Before that, don't forget to go to the website, embraceyourstorm.com. You can email me at hello@embraceyourstorm.com. Don't forget there's dashes in the domain name because I'm cheap. And I think that's everything. So today we have on Paula Atherton, and she is an amazing saxophonist and vocalist. And Paula, thanks for coming on today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. Yeah, no, you know what? Like honestly, back in the day when it comes to domain names, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, everyone would be like, don't get the dashes. It makes you look cheap, whatever. You know what? I do SEO optimization. I build websites. Everyone in the world goes to Google and they just search the domain, even if they know what it is. So it doesn't matter if you have dashes anymore because people are just like searching your website and then clicking on that to go to your website. So it doesn't matter anymore. So for all you people on there sitting on domain names, all the .coms and stuff, that ship has sailed, in my opinion. So, anyways, with that out of the way, sorry, Paula.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's not my department. I don't really know about that, but I wouldn't
Hey,
care.
well, yeah, like honestly, like back in the day, people like, oh, if you have a, embrace dash your dash storm, that makes your website look cheap. You have to have, embrace your storm with no dashes. Well, all these people out there buy domains and they sit on them because they're trying to make you, pay whatever $1,000 for, But like I said, just get the dashes. Everyone searches your domain. It doesn't matter. So, anyways, Paula, I really thank you for your time and coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. Looking
So,
forward to
so
having a chat with you.
Yeah, so like let's get this on you here. So were you a saxophonist first or a vocalist first? Because I the way you play saxophone is you're so smooth. The way you can go from your notes and the way you slide up and down the scale, it's amazing. So like what did you do first?
I was a singer first.
Okay.
Um, in elementary school, I started always in chorus, and in fourth grade we could have an instrument, and I think I wanted to play drums, and they were like, why don't you play flute? They were always like trying to get you to play. You
Yeah.
say what you want to play, and then they tell you what they want you to play
Right.
because they need more of those players in the band or whatever
No,
it is.
exactly. Yeah, they're
You,
like, we already have 10 drummers. We have no one
yeah,
playing flute.
right. So why don't you play the flute? I'm like, okay. I just wanted to play music. I honestly, I didn't care what it was.
Huh. So did you grow up in a musical house?
Not I'm no musicians per se. My mother loved Nat King Cole, so
Okay.
I grew up listening to him a lot, and I still love his music. His great pianist as well as singer.
Mm.
A lot of people don't realize that, but he was really a great musician. Um, but I always loved music, from the get go, and I just my parents didn't have money to get lessons for me, so the only thing that I learned was in school,
I
from
hear
my
you.
band
Yeah.
teacher, from my chorus teacher, and they were all just trying to like herd the sheep. It's like
Right,
the
right.
students are like all over the place, and they're on a time constraint. They gotta get you ready for the winter concert and the spring concert. And it's like everybody, come on in, and trying to get everybody's attention. So they don't have the luxury of spending time with like each student and explaining things
Mm.
like syncopated rhythms and maybe things that you don't grasp right away when you're in elementary school.
Yeah, no,
So
seriously.
there was a lot about music that confused me, and I really didn't get lessons till I could pay for them myself. So at
No
that
kidding.
point I really had a lot of catching up to do.
So then did you switch to saxophone and flute kind of in grade school and high school and stuff? Like ha, I- I'm not going to assume just because you can play flute, you can play saxophone because they're different, differently shaped and stuff. I mean, notes are notes, but it's still playing a different instrument. Um,
Well, yeah, I mean, between flute and saxophone, I started playing singing in first and then flute in elementary school, and I carried that through high school.
hmm,
So when I was a teenager and I started to study jazz, first I was scat singing.
That's
You
cool.
know, I'd start scat singing. First, I started with Lester Young singing his solos, and I did some trumpet players like Roy Eldridge and Miles Davis and Lee Morgan. And then I started doing other saxophone players like Charlie Parker. Sometimes I wrote words to the solos and
Hmm.
started to do them on shows. And then I take flute solos and whatnot. But as I was studying jazz, I really felt like I needed another color. Um, and listening to Charlie Parker really wanted me to play the saxophone, you know? So I got one. And the thing about flute and saxophone is a lot of the fingerings are the same, but the embouchure, which means your lip position and the muscles that you use to
Mm,
make the
mm.
sound, it's different, you know. And of course, alto, I play alto, mostly alto and soprano, and I play bari on recordings. The embouchure is different, and saxophone uses a mouthpiece, reed, and ligature. The flute, you know, you just use a head joint and you blow over the tone holes. So it's a different technique, but like I said, a lot of the fingerings are the same. Um, but I see everything through the eyes of a songwriter. I write a song, it's either a vocal because I'm telling a story and it has lyrics,
Mm,
or it's an instrumental and it's meant for one of my instruments. You know, I write specific things for flute, specific things for saxophone.
mm.
And that's how I see it.
Yeah, it's really really versatile because I noticed with your saxophone playing and your flute playing, like that's just another extension of like you singing in a sense. So it's really cool to have that like flexibility as an artist where you can like, well, I can either sing, my melodies, or I can like sing through the flute, or I can sing through the saxophone. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's just, you know, different colors that you pick, you know, and how you're like hearing the song. I remember years ago, like on my third release, Enjoy the Ride, I actually worked a flute single. Most of my singles have been saxophone because that's kind of how I've been represented at radio.
Mm.
Um, so I had this tune called Herbie, which kind of like paid homage to Herbie Mann because one of his tunes, Memphis Underground, kind of inspired me to write this tune, Herbie. Um, and I remember my good friend Nick Cullione at the time was saying, "Well, you're going to do a saxophone version?" I'm like, "No, I wrote it for flute, and it was about being inspired by a Herbie Mann tune. Why would I play it on saxophone? It was meant for flute, you know."
Yeah, yeah.
But at the time, the genre that I'm in, you know, it's kind of like a lot of my music is not really smooth jazz, but I get played on those stations. So, you know, at the time they weren't really playing a lot of flute players. And I did wind up charting. I think I got to 21 on Billboard, well, which was definitely good
That's
for a
cool.
flute tune at the time. You know, it was like
Totally.
2013 or so. But it's how I hear things. And I don't understand the way maybe some other people listen to music and think that, you know, it should be this. Or even with my singles that I make, I'm always curious as to how the program directors hear it and comments that they make. They listen to music differently than I do.
I hear
So
you. Yeah, that's funny. I never thought of that, honestly. Like someone having like a program director, they're going to be listening to a song with a different how would I even phrase that? Not a preconceived notion, but like this is cool. This is a cool topic to discuss. I'm just trying to work it out in my head, but I never
it's
I never thought of a producer being like, because I imagine, okay, someone's sitting in their home or whatever, and they're listening to music, and you're listening to it because you enjoy it, it moves you, it brings you to another place, it maybe gives you a sense of calm, whatever it is. But I never imagine someone sitting there listening to a song being like, okay, is everyone on my radio station gonna like this? No, I can't play. You know what I mean? Like that's a almost like a completely different reason to listen to music. Like that's interesting.
well, the way it usually goes for me is first I run it by my radio promoter guy.
Mm,
You know, if he's with the single or not, if he gives it a thumbs up. If he gives it a thumbs up while it's still kind of in its demo stage, then I finish it.
Okay.
And then he presents it to the program directors at radio, and they decide whether or not they're going to play it.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, I think my radio promoter and maybe the program directors all listen to the music differently than I do. So I really rely on my radio promoter to tell me if this is right for radio or not. And
Mm.
that's what he does. And I trust him and rely on him. And so far, since I've been working with the guy that I work with now, since 2018, I've gotten two number ones on Billboard, three number ones on Media Base, and
Wow.
12 top 30 singles. So,
Well, I think that guy has an ear for it then, or girl has an ear for it then. So,
yes, yes, he does. Yes, he does. He knows what he's doing, you know, much
Yeah.
more than I do as far as presenting it to radio and have it be the right, have it have the right slant on it for radio and you know, be something that the radio program directors think is right for the audience of their particular program. So
Do you do much with like publishing or anything? I'd imagine like your style of music would have a lot of like areas of possibilities of publishing.
well, you know, of course I have my own publishing company and everything is published, but I haven't
Well,
really.
sorry, I meant like through like film, like on TV and film and stuff.
Well, not as much as I would like. I wrote a Christmas song that I would love to get on like a Hallmark movie or something like that.
Mm.
And I always try, but I don't really have the right connections for that. Um, I wrote the score for a movie years ago called "The Definition of Insanity,"
Hmm.
um, but not a lot of my. Oh, and also I'm in another movie, "Into the Night."
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, my song "Into the Night" was the opening theme song to one of my friend Doc Tudor's films. I think it was called The Playground.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, but I would love to do more of that, you know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. There's a lot of opportunities in that arena for sure.
I have a catalog of 7 albums, so uh, I've got quite a few tunes out there that could be used.
Well, you know what's funny too is like I've heard some people kind of talking about like let's say you have 10 songs and this one guy gave this example. I was like, wow, that's kind of an interesting way to break down your songs to pitch to film or movies or whatever. He's like, because he was like, let's say you have 10 songs, you know, and if you have like vocals in all of them, he's like, what you do is like you take those 10 songs and then make them all instrumental. He's like, now you have 20 songs. And then he's like, you just start breaking it more and more down. He's like, so when you have 10 songs and you strip everything down to like bass and drums and with just bass and drums and this or that, he's like, now you have like 30 or 40 songs that you can pitch to people. I was like, wow, that's fascinating. Because like, because a lot of these people buying music for films and TV, it's like, they don't want to like you could have like if you had a song and they're like, oh, we wish it didn't have singing, but otherwise we would have taken it. It's like they'll pass on you. So it's like that's why you want to have like every version of the song ready to go where they're like, oh, we wish it didn't have any vocals. Oh, really? Here you go. Yeah, I was like, wow, that's interesting. Like I didn't realize that industry worked that way, you know?
Yeah, I mean, well, they could just tell you. Do you have an
Yeah.
instrumental version of this? You
Well,
know?
I guess these I don't know, I don't think you call them media buyers, but the guy, you know, the guys looking for the music, they here's another thing. I guess the reason why they might not do that is because what was the other example? This guy, I think he said in a 1 hour show where you know it's only like a 45-minute time, you know, time span with like commercials and stuff, there could be I could be mistaken the numbers, but it was something astonishing like 50 different music like little musical spots that they're looking for music for in one show. So like they don't have time to be like, "Oh, I wish that didn't have singing" because they're just like on a mad hunt trying to find 50 little individual things for this one episode. It's like, wow, that's so crazy. I never imagined all that
Well,
before.
I know with film, like they can send you a copy with window burns and say, we need a 20-second thing here. We need a
Mm.
10-second thing here. So with the movie that I did, I just composed things that were that length that fit, the feeling of what was happening in that scene.
Because did you have the movie too to see the scene of the music you're writing for or whatever?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the
Oh,
code was
okay.
at the bottom, so I could see, what frame it was and everything.
Oh, okay, okay, that's cool. That's kind of exciting to like see the movie and to be like, okay, I need to like write some stuff for this part. Like that's exciting.
Yeah, it was a little bit challenging too because they only wanted two instruments. They wanted upright bass and saxophone.
Oh, geez, wow, okay.
So to convey the feeling that was in each piece of music with just those instruments was it was different.
Yeah, that's interesting too because I know for me when it comes to like writing music, like I'll always come up with like a riff because I'm a guitar player, and then like I want all the music sort of finished before I even think of like writing lyrics or how I'm gonna sing it or whatever. But so another interesting approach to be given a movie and to be like, I want you using these instruments. Now come up with something. That's another kind of creative way to get the juices flowing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you can convey feelings with an instrumental as well as a vocal.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, did you feel constrained if they tell you, "Oh, give it to us with like these instruments or whatever?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, is there a sense of constraint when someone gives you like, "Hey, this is what we want"?
Well, it's, each thing that you do is kind of like a challenge, and I just take it as such and try to follow the instructions and see if I can do what it is that they want successfully. If they feel as if what I did is what they had in their mind.
Mm, mm. So like, I think you said you're working on releasing your eighth album. Is that right?
Yeah, I just released the first single, Moonlight Drive, June 10th.
Wow. Okay. So like, what, going back before we'll get to this one, but going back to the first one, like how old were you when you, well, I shouldn't ask how old you were, but I mean, like when did you release your first one? And like, was it hard to release an album like as a jazz player? I'd imagine you know what I mean? Like I love jazz, but it feels like a tough market. So how was it releasing that album?
Well, I come from the traditional jazz arena, so, American Songbook and all that.
Mm,
So I was kind of working as a musician with either a quartet and quintet and playing and singing that repertoire. And I started to write because I really, wanted to have something that was my own. Because, growing up, I didn't really feel like my instrument or my voice fit with any kind of the music. Like a lot of my friends are in rock bands or whatever.
mm,
And I just didn't feel like I fit in. So when I started to write, I was like, this really could be cool. I could find something like that's mine and that I feel comfortable in. So, I had started writing, so I had some of my own tunes. And at the time, my boyfriend, who later became my husband, was like, "No, you got to get a record deal. You're not. You shouldn't really put, a CD together or anything like that. You got to get signed."
mm.
And I said, "But I want something that if I have a show, I have something that I could sell, and the people say, well, we want to listen to you.
Yeah,
How do we do?"
yeah.
I wasn't on, Apple Music or any kind of thing like that. Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing like anybody else. Your first thing that you try to put together, you just, you know, hanging on
Yeah.
for dear
Yeah.
life. You don't
Yeah.
know, you don't know.
You don't know what you don't until you know.
Yeah. And you don't know what you don't know, which is
Yeah,
the
that
scary.
too.
You don't even know what you're up against. I'm like, no, so we recorded a bunch of stuff and then finally I pressed something and it was just a conglomeration of some things that we had recorded. Um, so it wasn't like some of my releases after that had a thread through them. Like Ear Candy was influenced by Philly soul music. You
Mm,
know,
mm.
I was listening to a lot of that because the songwriting is on such a high level. The Delphonics and other groups in that, like the Blue Eyed Soul stuff, and it's just Betcha by Golly Wow, and all those great tunes.
Yeah.
So Ear Candy was influenced by that. My first one was just throw it together and let's just like have something to say. I have a CD. I have something in my hand that's tangible. All the practicing and all the blood, sweat, and tears, you don't
Mm.
get to hold anything and show anything for that. But when you record something and you have it in your hand and it's tangible, you could show people, I made this.
Yeah.
This is my music. This represents my work so far.
Hmm.
So yeah, the first one was about 20 years ago. Um, and of course, I had no money and I didn't know what I was doing. I started to get close to charting on a chart. It wasn't Billboard or Media Base or anything like that. But I got excited because that was like the beginning of something. And I did get played on the radio a little bit. I actually knew a show that my songs were going to be on. It was 6 in the morning. I got up and I recorded it.
That's
And,
cool.
it was like, here I was on the radio. Here I
That's cool.
am.
That's cool.
But it was really hard for me to break through. So on my second one, which was years later, that one came out like 2009, Groove With Me. That is kind of like my first album because that was the first time I got a distribution deal. And it's
That's cool.
funny, with the same company I'm with now. I got back with them after being on labels for 3 of my albums, but the labels that I was on were all licensing deals.
Okay.
So I got them all back.
Okay. Okay.
So I always owned my catalog,
That's really
which
cool.
which is what I would suggest anyone to do,
Yeah.
rather than a typical record contract whereby the royalties get split into two. It's the artist side and the RO. The RO is the rights owner. The
Right.
rights owner is the person who owns the master. It has nothing to do with songwriting. Okay. The rights owner is the person that owns the master. So if you sign a typical record deal, they're going to take the RO. That's the bigger
Yeah.
piece of the pie. It's like 60-40 or thereabouts. You get the artist side, they get the RO. They're getting the lion's share of the money. And because they own the master, they're going to own your catalog.
Yep.
So if you leave that record label, you got nothing.
Yeah.
You have
They have all your future sales.
you have no catalog to sell.
Yeah.
You got to start over to build your catalog. So
Mm.
that's why that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
However, if you're just starting out on your first one, a label like that can give you notoriety. They can get you out there because they're going to spend the money. They're going to help you chart because it makes them look good. And the more spins you get, right? The more that means the more airplay you're getting, which
Mm.
means the more money you're getting, which means the more money they're getting.
Yeah. No, totally.
So it's in
Totally.
their best interest to get you to chart as high as they can because that means you're getting the most spins and they're getting the most money.
Mm. Man. Yeah,
But
we definitely live in the day and age now where anyone with the proper amount of motivation, um I don't even want to say and or money because there's all kinds of ways to do things on the cheap, but I think that if a musician is serious about it, we live in the day and age where musicians can be, I mean, you're doing it yourself, can be professional musicians where they earn their living doing their their thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the internet made a lot of things possible.
absolutely. Absolutely. Social media, the internet, people, anyone that owns a laptop now, I mean, I'm being over whatever, but anyone that has a laptop practically has a recording studio in their lap. You know what I mean? Like, so it's the barrier to entry is much lower now
Yeah.
to really do things yourself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. But, in that, it's kind of hard for people to even find out what they're supposed to do.
No, I hear you.
I've helped a lot of my friends because I've learned a lot by making mistakes. When you make a mistake and you lose a lot of money, you're going to remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do not do that one again. Stupid.
Absolutely.
Do not do that one. Whatever you do, don't do that. So, you have to get verified on all the platforms.
Mm,
That's step number one. Apple Music, Tidal,
yeah,
all the
yeah.
platforms. Do bands in town. Bands in town's important because it
Yep.
sends out reminders to people about your shows. You can get your shows on there. You can look at your audience on there. On things like Spotify, you can do a campaign within Spotify for as little as $100, $100 to $150, and you can include. I'm not sure if you could do this on Spotify. I know you can in bands in town. Uh, Fans of other artists that are like you that might have a
Oh,
bigger.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's really smart to do.
No,
Stuff like
totally.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have my own channel on Pandora. You can do 15-second commercials for free on Pandora and advertise your shows.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
That's a that's a cool little hack.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's so many things that you can do. One thing that I do, and a lot of people are going to think this is crazy, but if I'm doing a show and maybe the promoter isn't doing enough promotion for it or as much as I'd like, to let the people know that I'm doing something in that
Yeah.
particular city.
Yeah.
I try to find a radio station that plays me, which is the best. But if they don't, at least a radio station in the area that I could either get on the calendar or pay for a commercial.
Huh.
I buy
That's
my own
smart.
radio hits.
That's smart. I
And
don't
what's
think that's
really
crazy. I think it's actually kind of genius.
well, spending money on protecting and broadening your brand is never stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I'm buying commercials on a radio station, some people are listening, they may not know who I am. Now all of a sudden they hear the commercial, they're hearing about me. And something that I do, if I make the commercial, I put my music in the background, which is embedded with ISRC codes. So
hmm
guess what? Guess what?
Oh, you get paid every time a commercial's played.
Bingo! How do you like that one?
That's freaking genius also.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, one time my radio promoter noticed that it was on one of the singles. He goes, and actually we had already finished working the single, and he was talking to me. He's like, for some reason your last single got all these plays last week. Wonder what's going on with that. I'm like, I don't know.
That is fun, so funny. But yeah, I mean, like that right there, that's just like smart thinking. You know what I mean? Like that's what I mean. Like if you kind of stay ahead of the curve or whatever, look at all these neat little tricks you can come up with. I mean, great, like you can say this kind of loosely, like, oh, putting my song in the back end of that commercial, the song paid for the commercial. You know what I mean? And like in a sense, you're like generating the money within the commercial to pay for the commercial.
Yeah, plus people hear my music that maybe never heard it before, and they're like, "Oh, that sounds cool. I like that. Let me check them out. Let me look at
Yeah.
them on Spotify or Amazon Music
Yeah,
or
no, totally. Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's genius. Like I said, I think that's genius. And I mean, I don't, if especially if you're reaching out to maybe a smaller like wattage, radio station where you might get away on the cheap kind of for like ads there. So
Yeah, like public service radio. A
yeah.
lot of times they're like $15 a commercial.
Yeah, so there you go. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's pretty inexpensive if you can think about the ears, that would hear it. You know what I'm saying? For the $15.
I think I always feel like it's money well spent, you know.
I hear you. No, I totally that's such a dude, what other kind of like little hacks do you do to that was pretty cool. What else you got for like promoting yourself?
Well, like I mentioned, the Spotify campaigns, that's always really good.
Yeah,
And the
totally.
Pandora ads, the Pandora voice ads. Um, I don't know, probably as we're talking, I'll just other ones will come to mind. But I learned this stuff partially from some really smart people that I work with rather,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
some just by making mistakes. Like the distributor that I'm with now, this one person works the physical side, like CDs and vinyl and whatever, and another person works the digital end, and they get me on playlists. They teach me how to do some of these things, some of the
That's
campaigns.
cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get a distributor every day that does stuff like that. And they got me on this playlist about now it's 8 months back, I think, called Smooth Jazz for Pets. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
I bet you that's a heavily saved playlist.
I guess people leave it on for their pets when they go to work
Yeah,
because
that's what I'm saying. Like by the name of it, I bet you there's a ton of people. That's not the minute you said that, I imagine someone leaving for work and before they left, they hit play in that playlist and then just plays all day. Like,
I think I got up to like 140,000 streams a week.
wow.
And this was going on for about 8 months.
Oh my goodness.
So then I got another song on, uh, I guess it was on Smooth Jazz for Pets as well. And that got up to 195,000 streams in
Wow.
7 days.
Wow. Wow.
So, the streaming thing pays a hundredth of a penny, right?
Yeah, it's like ridiculous. So like you're lucky if you get 14 cents from all that. Like,
But I was getting so many streams that I got like $1,000 a month from it.
no kidding. Man, that is crazy. Like that again, that's a little hack like bands might not, I mean, they probably do know this day and age, but I mean, getting on playlists like that is like that's almost how you get found on Spotify. Although I would argue that Spotify's like suggestion engine or whatever, like, oh, if you like this band, you're gonna like this. That's really good. Like it's really good at matching other bands up with like things that you listen to. So like I would imagine, like the smooth jazz people or the jazz people. I would are you able to see like this would be interesting. Are you able to like if you're logging to Spotify, can you see like the bands that it compares you to or whatever? Can you see like, oh, we recommend you alongside of like this band or like because that would be interesting.
I've seen it on Amazon. I don't know if I've
Okay.
seen it on Spotify, but those playlists that I was talking about, those are actually on Amazon Music.
Oh, gee, that's crazy. I'd imagine I thought it was Spotify, but yeah, the second, like I said, the second you said the title of it, I was like, oh yeah, I could definitely see people playing music for their pets when they leave for work or whatever it is, one easily. So that, like I
Yeah,
said,
and
that's
it was in Brazil and South America and like smooth just para pets and just like all over the place. So it's
hmm.
just
So were they streamed from all over the world? Like, can you see like where each stream kind of like if you got 150,000 or whatever in a month, can you
oh
see where
yeah,
they're? That's
yeah.
cool.
My distributor is brilliant. They send me a list every month of, and this is the most detailed thing. It's unbelievable. Like 10,000 entries. Which song, which platform, which
Oh wow,
country,
wow,
the price point, the whole thing. And,
wow.
I'm looking at it: Hong Kong,
That's cool.
Lithuania, Czech
Hmm,
Republic,
hmm.
Guam,
That's interesting. That must be exciting being able to to reach people on other countries like that. When I used to build a Linux operating system like 10 years ago now, and it was used in over 30 countries. And I can remember when I would like log in and see where it was downloaded from, like, man, I can't believe someone from that country is like using my thing or down, you know what I mean? So that must be cool to have people like, wow, someone from Hong Kong like listen to my song. Like that's exciting, you know?
Yeah, I mean, music is a wonderful thing. It heals people. It
Mm-hmm.
makes people happy. Uh, my friend Nick always used to say, musicians are messengers of love. You know, uh, we go out and try to spread joy.
Mm,
That's our job. When we do a show, it's our job to entertain the people and make them happy. It's always about the audience. It's never look at me. It's always you speak to the audience with your heart. That's your job.
absolutely.
That's what you have
Yeah,
to do. If you don't
absolutely.
understand that, you're wrong.
Hmm, hmm.
Period. That's what it's all about. So, um,
Yeah, I mean, you we were talking before the podcast. So you're doing this is like your thing, like playing, saxophone, flute, singing, putting out albums, playing music. Like this is your gig. You don't have any other jobs. So I mean, it's you were saying before, like I people probably think like, oh, when you work for yourself it must be nice, maybe you don't do that much work or whatever. Be like, I work probably harder than people that do 9 to 5 jobs, and I would totally agree with that. I Like I said before, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, so I get working for yourself. So like maybe let the audience know, like, yeah, I'm a musician and I'm earning money doing it, but I'm also like hustling, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't seem you leave a stone unturned.
well, I mean, about the working part of it,
Yeah,
whether
yeah,
or not I have a show that day, I work every night till about 11 o'clock at
man.
night. I have business to do. I have songs to write. I got practicing to do. I have emails to answer. I have to get ready for something like this, a show.
Yeah,
Online. I do plenty of interviews. I do liners for radio. You know what those are, right?
yeah, yep.
Hi, I'm Paula Atherton. You're listening to station blah blah blah. All
Right,
that kind of
right.
stuff. And of course, as you can imagine, guess whose music is in the background when I do those? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sneaky with that. Um,
I believe it. I bet you that's paid off more than, well, I mean, obviously you can see the data, but that little trick right there seriously is probably paid off more than people know. Like
well,
that
because it pays off in a lot of different ways. That's
that's what
that's
I'm
why
saying. That's what I mean. Like it's a genius little hack. Like I
it's
really
always like step one is always build your brand. If you
mm,
have no foundation, like people just try to put music out, they'll put it out on whatever platform. They're like, no one's buying my song. I'm like, uh-huh. You know why? Because your song's like a tree in the woods. It's falling
yeah,
and nobody knows it's out there.
yeah,
Because you
yeah.
didn't build your foundation. You don't have a platform. You didn't build your brand. Nobody's ever going to find out about that song
Yeah.
unless you do that.
Yeah, no, totally. Like, I guess that comes back to like, even though we do live in the day and age where musicians can do this all kind of themselves and, you don't need a record label. But I think by people hearing you talk, it's like, yeah, you can do it, but it takes a lot of work. It's no joke. Like getting, like, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And like, it takes a lot more work than you might think. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's definitely a learn as you go thing, unless you are lucky enough to take a course on it somewhere, or me. But uh, there's a lot to learn. There's really a lot to learn.
Man, Paula, is there well, you know what? We didn't get to, I want to get to the latest album. I want to promote that. So tell us about the latest album that's out right now.
The latest album is called Dance and Shoes, and there's a title track, Dance and Shoes, that was my last single. My current single, as I mentioned before, Moonlight Drive, is the first single for my yet unfinished eighth album.
There you
So
go.
Dance and Shoes is my seventh album. And it I did this differently. Like some previous albums, I would like record the whole thing and then pick the singles, right? This one has four top 10 singles on it already
Oh wow.
that that were previously released, but not on an album yet.
Okay.
So, and those are Keep It Coming, which went number one on Media Base, Dancing Shoes, Ready or Not, and Open Road. I did a cover on here of Curtis Mayfield's Move On Up.
Oh
Usually
yeah,
I
I
don't
saw
do,
that.
yeah, usually I don't do covers unless I make it my own thing. I don't just go on a show and play a cover verbatim, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, I try to have my own take on it. um, and what else would you like to know about Dance and Shoes?
What do you take like different approaches when you record different albums or like I know for me, well, I haven't recorded for a long time, but when I would record that kind of like what was going on in my life at that time
Right.
is it feels like it's cemented into that music for me. Like just kind of for me, you know what I mean? Like as a musician recording it and stuff. Is it like that for you for your albums? And like do you take different approaches to record it, like your recording process to like mix up the end result, I guess maybe is the way to phrase it.
Well, my ideas for songwriting come to me from the heavens or wherever they come from,
Mm,
and they come from wherever and whenever they come. So I try to just work with them whenever they show themselves. As far as what gets on the album, not everything that I'm recording is going to get on the album, and
mm.
I kind of sequence it, even though that's a lost art. But just in case somebody's actually going to buy or download the entire release and they're going to listen from beginning to end, it's going to make sense to you. It has a beginning and it has an ending,
Yeah, yeah,
and
totally. I
it
get
tells a
that.
story in the middle.
Hmm. I get that. Have you do you release like just singles like this day and age or whatever? Do you like release
Yeah,
just a song when oh really? So
yeah, I
so
have
what
a yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I released Moonlight Drive June 10th.
oh right, and it doesn't have like that you haven't done the album yet for that. Okay, that's right. That's right. I apologize for that. So what's that like to kind of release this? Do you feel like maybe you get a sense of like the response from that one song? Does it make you feel good about going into like creating the rest of the album? Because I'm assuming like your album, like I haven't listened to all your albums, but I'm assuming that like each of them has kind of like their own feel or like motif or whatever. So like is putting out a single a way to kind of put out your feelers to see if people are responding to where you're at with in the temperature of your musicianship?
Well, to speak to that, I have to say, like, one of the other things that I do is for the singles that are targeted to radio,
Mm,
I work with outside producers. I hire, like, my husband has produced a lot of my music that I've written.
mm,
Well, for the songs now that are targeted to radio, I hire outside producers, and they bring a different flavor to what I'm recording. So that
okay.
kind of helps keep my stuff fresh. So
I see. I see. Okay. No, that's cool though.
yeah,
You know what? Honestly, it is good to get outside eyes and ears like that because sometimes you could be so close to the trees you can't see the forest kind of thing or whatever, you know?
yeah, I really started to do it a lot. Like Nick Corleone had produced a couple things for me, but then on my sixth one, Can You Feel It? I think I'm not looking at the album, but there were at least five, I think, outside producers on that one, maybe even
Oh
six.
wow. No kidding.
So that one, I wound up having two number one singles on Billboard
Hmm,
and Media Base.
hmm.
And the funny story was the title track, Can You Feel It, came out in January 2020, right? So I'm in New York. Uh, 2020 at the beginning, you got to remember that was COVID, and
Yeah.
it was
Yeah, really.
in New York. It was real bad.
I
We
was
were
gonna say
losing,
that's kind of like the last place you wanted to be.
yeah, we were losing 8,000 people a day.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And they had no place to put the bodies. They were in like refrigerator trucks in parking lots.
Oh my gosh.
And like every morning the governor would come on and tell us what was going on and show us that stuff. And I'm sitting there going, this is the end of the world.
Yeah, that's
The
insane.
end of the world. This is the end. Where does it go from here? People are dying left and right. I seriously thought that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm quarantined, you know. We go out to get food and come back with masks on and like gloves on and like totally petrified, you know. So what happens? My single, Can You Feel It, comes out in January 2020. And it's going up the charts. It's getting played on across the country. All the stations in this genre pick it up. It's going up the chart. And you know, I remember one day I was out walking my dog and my radio promoter calls me and he starts talking about something. He's like talking about people that are in the top 10, and I hadn't gotten a single in the top 10 yet. I charted, but I hadn't gotten in the top 10 yet. He's going on and on. I'm like, Dave, why are you talking about the top 10? He goes,
Right? Like, I don't care about these people.
yeah, I don't know anything about this. He's like, well, congratulations, you're in the top 10. I was like, you know, so of course I went nuts and started screaming and jumping up and down and everything. Put up, they, I guess, informed Twitter, or it was called Twitter at the time, I think X now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They informed Twitter that my single was about to be my first #1 on Billboard. So Twitter posted my Billboard charting history
Wow, that is cool.
of all the songs that I had on Billboard. Yeah, and you
Wow.
know, and I saw that, and it was really special. It was really
Yeah, no,
special
that's
that they
that's
did that.
freaking awesome.
Um, yeah, the whole thing, it saved my life. I mean, it was just, we were just sitting here in total and complete despair, and you can imagine. You
Yeah,
can imagine
no.
what it did for my spirit, and
No,
you know,
absolutely. He must have felt like a uh I'm probably like over exaggerating, but like a almost like a rebirth probably because you know, you if you're seeing 8,000 people a day dying, there is this sense of doom, you know what I mean? But like if you hit your song hits a #1, that kind of it like gives you I guess I would say hope again in the world or whatever. Like, you know, I'm speaking from how I would think I would feel, you know?
well, you know, I'm not a real religious person. I'm a pretty spiritual person. It was like a gift from God.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, like I said, just one of those things that really it's like a life-changing moment kind of thing, you know?
And in fact, you're right. It was life changing because now all of a sudden, promoters started calling me instead of me calling them.
No, exactly. You know, like yeah, that's it's pretty amazing. Like Paula, hearing your journeys, I would really say hearing your journey should show people what happens if like you just kind of put your nose to the grindstone and just do it. I hate saying just do it because, you know, but it really is true. It's like just do it, you know?
Well,
Like,
it's you got to follow what's in your heart. Your heart is already telling you what you're supposed to do. You just have
yeah,
to listen to it.
yeah, yeah. I
I
hear you.
mean,
I get that.
I was told all over the place, like even by teachers, you know. One guy that I was studying improvising with, he's like, well, you know, if you're playing saxophone, you can't keep playing flute and singing as well. I'm like, well, that's what I do. Why not? You know,
Hmm.
people all over the place can discourage you and
Absolutely.
tell you they don't like your music, they don't like this about you, they don't like that, blah 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 blah. Just let them go. So okay, fine, goodbye, and just do what's in your heart. Your music should be like your fingerprint. I mean, we all copy and study from the masters when we're learning how to do what it is that we do, right?
Right.
But the next step is the step that's really, really important. And some people don't get there. You have to have your own voice.
Yes, I
You
agree with
should
that
have
100%.
your own sound on your instrument, or your voice, your
Mm-hmm.
own vocal sound, or your own vocal approach, at least, for people to listen to a few notes and to know that it's you.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that 100%.
And that's not an easy one to accomplish.
That's actually the hardest one to accomplish. Yeah,
But,
in my opinion, like I think that's why I I envy a lot of people that have found that very thing that you're talking about, like finding your own, voice, your own, style, because it's not easy to do. And there's a lot of, I don't want to call people like copycats or whatever, but it's a lot easier to, I don't want to say it's easier to not be true to yourself, but I mean, it's a lot easier to not take the chance, I guess, on doing what's inside of you.
well, a
Because
lot of people will say you're great if you remind them of somebody. They say, "Oh yeah,
right,
they just
right,
like so and so, they're great," right?
right,
But
exactly.
if you actually develop your own sound, it's going to take people a little bit longer, maybe, to warm up to that, right?
Absolutely,
Because
because they're like, I don't know how to I don't know how to deal with your sound or whatever,
I haven't heard because they haven't heard it before. It's not
Right.
something they've heard before. You might remind them of somebody, and that's great because your influences are coming through. But
Yeah,
if you,
yeah.
I mean, people have said to me, and which I feel really, really lucky to know that they think this. They'll say, like my friend Curtis the other day, he said, he told me his wife was listening to my new single, and he was in the house coming up the stairs, and he got to the top of the stairs, and so he was in earshot. And he goes, "Is that Paula?"
There you
And
go.
his wife went, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, I could tell in like a couple of notes." I said, "Wow, that's what I'm striving for, to have my own sound, you know,
Absolutely.
that to have
Absolutely.
my own identity." And my point about it is that I really think if everybody listens to their heart and tries to be as true to themselves as they can, they will have their own sound as well.
Yeah, you know what? You know why being true to yourself is hard? Because it's a very scary place to be. It's a very you put yourself at kind of a vulnerable spot, I guess. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why it's harder to get yourself to that spot, you know?
You're being exposed.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, totally. Paula, I this has been awesome. Do you have any kind of, I mean, you've given honestly an incredible amount of information for people, but what other kind of like we're kind of closing up the interview here. What other kind of advice would you give to, artists or whatever that are recording or whether it's gig? I mean, whatever you can kind of think of, like what other kind of advice would you give to them?
Um, as I was saying before, just like listen to your heart, even if people are telling you, don't do this. I mean, probably, if you have parents, they're telling you, don't do this, don't be an artist. We want you to be a doctor. And they're saying that to you because they love you and they want you to have a sure thing.
Right. No, totally.
But if what it's music was the only thing I wanted to do, I didn't want to do anything else. So that's all I was going to do. There was nothing else in my heart for me to do. And if that's how you feel, you have to go after it. Um, I'm not saying that it's an easy thing to do, but uh, a good way to think if you're a musician and you're trying to get where you need to go, besides learning all the stuff that we were talking about before, try to have a multi-income stream. This is
Mm,
like really important to
I
have.
100%.
So, yeah. So, maybe you're at the point where you're getting a little bit of income from your songs that are on, TuneCore, DistroKid, or whatever your distributor is. Maybe you're getting a little money from there. Then you do some local gigs, right? Bar, restaurant type things. Maybe you could go to local, like nursing homes and places like that, play for the people. They're
Yeah,
so
totally.
appreciative and they love it so much, and it really helps them. That's a great thing to do. See about teaching, give back. Get some private students, maybe go to a local school, see if you could do a seminar, workshop, something like that.
Hmm.
You know, there's so many different ways for you to give back, and even make income with your music. And it's important to have multi-income streams, because if one falls out, then you still have other ways to make money.
Exactly. Or if one dries up for a little bit, you still got other streams coming in, and that stream that dried up might have a flow come back in, and another stream might kind of dry up. So yeah, absolutely. You definitely want to have multiple income
Yeah,
streams.
I have a music therapy degree, and when I'm home in New York, they don't have a jazz radio station here. So believe it or not, I don't play my music in New York.
No kidding.
Yeah, I have to go on the road to radio, to where radio plays me in certain cities, and that's where I do my
Hmm.
concerts.
No
But
kidding.
I work here for a company called Music That Heals, and we play music for cancer patients, people in hospice, autistic kids, um, and it's really a gift to be able to do that sort of thing, because music makes such a difference in
It does.
all these instances, and you just
Absolutely.
see how powerful it actually is.
Absolutely. No, Paula, that was amazing. I thank you for all of that. And I wish you well on the upcoming album release, and I wish you well on the upcoming singles and everything. You're doing amazing. I didn't even get to really talk about your saxophone playing and your singing, but it's all amazing. You guys need to check out Paula. She definitely I would say I'm not, the biggest jazz listener in the world. I love jazz. I do listen to it, and I would say you definitely have your own sound, like it, that you're working on. I can hear it. And so people check out Paula Atherton. I'm gonna have links in the on the show notes. Like go to her website and other things like that. You'll be able to find her. But you can search for her. Are you on like Spotify and all that stuff too, Paula?
Absolutely.
Okay, Amazon, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, all that stuff.
Anywhere.
So
Yep.
yeah, so that you'll be able to find her. Again, Paula, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for the interview. I really had a good time.
Thank you. And everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And don't forget to embrace your storm. See ya.